The night air outside the alien market was hot and heavy, filled with strange smells of burning oils and spices. Neon lights flashed above the narrow streets where hundreds of voices shouted, bargained, and laughed. But deep inside the old stone hall, the atmosphere was different, silent, tense, and cruel. The hall was the dealer's stage. He stood at the center, tall and proud, wearing a long black coat with golden threads running across the shoulders. His sharp teeth glowed whenever he smiled, and tonight he smiled often. Behind him, a row of cages stood under bright lamps. Inside those cages were girls, alien girls of many shapes, sizes, and colors. Some looked frightened, some broken, and some sat still like empty shadows. The dealer raised his hand. "Tonight is special," he announced, his voice echoing across the hall. "I guarantee satisfaction, or your money back." "You heard me, guaranteed." The crowd of buyers laughed and whispered. They were aliens from every corner of the galaxy, all rich, all hungry for power, control, or pleasure. Some wore glowing jewels, others carried weapons, and a few covered their faces behind metal masks. Then the dealer pulled one girl forward. She stumbled as he yanked her chain. She was young, her hair falling across her tired face. Her skin shimmered faintly under the lamps, silver in color with faint blue veins glowing like fireflies. Her large eyes were filled with fear, but she didn't cry. She only stared down at the floor as if already defeated. "This one," the dealer shouted, lifting her chin so everyone could see her face. "Guaranteed. She will not disappoint. And if she does, your money back." He laughed, and the crowd roared with him. The girl swallowed hard. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. She had been sold before, promised before, broken before. Every time she hoped someone would show mercy, but mercy never came. Tonight felt no different. At the back of the hall, a man stood quietly. He was not like the others. His clothes were simple, dusty from travel. His face was tired, but his eyes sharp. He was human. Most in the galaxy thought humans were weak, too kind, too soft, too fragile. But this man did not look weak. He looked calm, as if he was waiting for something. He watched the girl carefully. Not the way the others watched her body, but the way one might study a locked door, searching for what was hidden behind it. The dealer called out the first price. Voices shouted higher bids instantly. The numbers rose fast, faster than usual. The promise of guaranteed had filled the crowd with greed. The girl felt her chest tighten. Each shout meant her fate was sealed tighter. She wondered which monster would buy her this time, which hand would drag her away. Then silence. The human's voice cut through the hall. He gave a number, higher than anyone else. Not shaking, not shouting, just calm. The dealer blinked. For a moment he seemed surprised. Then his cruel smile returned. "Sold," he declared, slamming his staff on the ground. "To the human!" The crowd booed and muttered. Some laughed, others cursed. Why would a human waste so much on this broken girl? They shook their heads, mocking him already. The girl lifted her eyes for the first time. She looked at the man, the stranger who had just bought her. His expression didn't change. He only nodded at her once, slow, steady like a promise. Something in her chest stirred. Not hope, not yet. But something small. Something she thought she had lost long ago. The dealer pushed her forward roughly. "She's yours," he sneered. "Let's see if you ask for your money back by morning." The man said nothing. He just held out his hand to steady her, and together they walked away from the hall, leaving the noise and lights behind. The girl's heart pounded. For the first time she wondered, who was this human, and why did he buy her, when he could have walked away like all the others? The night outside the auction hall was darker than the girl remembered. The streets were filled with noise and flashing signs, but none of it reached her heart. All she could hear was the echo of the dealer's laugh and the voices of the crowd calling out prices for her body. She walked beside the human, her chains cold against her skin. She had been bought before, many times. Each buyer promised something different. Some promised riches, others promised safety, and all had lied. None had given her kindness. So why should this human be different? She lowered her head and waited for the moment his mask would fall, for the cruelty that always came. The human said nothing as they walked. His steps were steady, his face calm. Finally, he stopped at a quiet corner of the city where the light from the towers faded and shadows stretched long across the street. He turned to her and spoke, his voice low and firm. "You are free now," he said. The girl blinked. She thought she had misheard him. "Free?" The word felt strange on her tongue, almost forbidden. The man nodded. He pulled out a small device and pressed it against the lock on her chains. With a faint click, the metal bands fell to the ground. Her wrists trembled where the skin was raw and bruised. She stared at them in disbelief. "No one is free," she whispered. "Not here." The man looked at her with eyes that seemed older than his face. "You are if you choose to be. Come with me or walk away. It is your decision." The girl froze. No one had ever given her a choice before. She felt her heart race with fear, because freedom sounded more terrifying than chains. Freedom meant danger. Freedom meant being hunted again. "Why?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Why buy me? Only to let me go?" The man paused. For the first time, his calm expression shifted. Pain flickered in his eyes, quickly hidden. "Because I know what it means to be sold. To be treated like nothing. No one deserves that." His words hit her like a blade. She stared at him, searching for lies in his face, but found none. Before she could answer, a sound echoed from behind. Heavy boots clattered on the stone, voices rising in the distance. The dealer's guards. The girl's stomach dropped. Of course, it was never this easy. The man's jaw tightened. "They won't let you go." "Not yet." He grabbed her hand and pulled her into the narrow alleys. She stumbled but followed, her bare feet slapping against the ground. The shouts grew louder as the guards spread out, hunting. The alley twisted like a maze. Neon signs flickered above broken doors. The man moved quickly, as if he already knew every corner, every turn. The girl tried to keep up, her breath sharp, her chest burning. Finally, they stopped in a hidden passage behind an old warehouse. The man pressed a panel in the wall and a door slid open. Inside was a small, dimly lit room. Metal walls, a table, a pack lying on the floor. "This is my safe house," he said. "They won't find us here." The girl stood trembling at the doorway. Part of her wanted to run into the night and never return. Another part wanted to collapse on the floor and never move again. He poured water from a flask and handed it to her. She stared at it, then at him. Was this another trick? But her throat was dry, her body weak. Slowly she lifted it and drank. The water was warm, but it felt like life. The man watched silently. After a long moment, he spoke again. "You don't have to trust me, not now. But know this, I didn't buy you to own you. I bought you to save you." The girl's eyes burned. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe freedom could be real. But all she could whisper was, "Why me?" The man turned away, his shoulders heavy. "Because once no one saved me. And I swore, if I had the chance, I'd never let it happen to someone else." The silence that followed was deep, heavy, and filled with secrets. And for the first time in years, the girl didn't feel like property. She felt like a question that finally deserved an answer. The safe house was quiet, but the girl could not rest. She sat in the corner, hugging her knees, eyes fixed on the human. He was busy checking his gear, adjusting a worn-out blaster, sharpening a knife, and packing rations into a small bag. He moved with discipline like a soldier. Every action was calm, without waste. She could not understand him. Why would a man risk his money, his life, for someone like her? She had been called broken, useless, cursed. Yet here he was, treating her as if she mattered. Outside, faint sounds drifted through the walls. Boots, voices, and the low hum of hover bikes. The dealer's guards had spread across the city like a hunting pack. "They are looking for us," the girl whispered. The man nodded without looking up. "I know, that's why we moved before dawn," she frowned. "They will never stop. No one escapes the dealer." At that, the man finally looked at her. His eyes were sharp but not unkind. "Then I'll make them stop." The certainty in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. It wasn't pride. It wasn't empty promise. It was truth, carried in the tone of someone who had faced worse and survived. Hours passed slowly. The girl tried to stay awake, but exhaustion pulled her down. She drifted into uneasy sleep, haunted by memories of chains and cruel hands. When she woke, the man was still there, sitting by the door, watching the night through a narrow slit in the wall. "Time to go," he said quietly. They slipped out before the sun rose, moving through alleys where the shadows still clung to the stones. The man led, the girl followed, her bare feet silent against the cold ground. But soon the silence broke. A beam of light cut across the alley, and a harsh voice shouted, "There!" The guards had found them. The man pushed her behind him. Blaster fire ripped through the air, red streaks burning against the dark. He returned fire with quick, precise shots. Two guards fell instantly, their bodies crashing into the dirt. The girl gasped. She had never seen a human fight like that. His movements were sharp, practiced, almost mechanical. Each step was measured, each shot purposeful. But more guards poured in from every corner, their hover bikes growling like beasts. The alley became a trap. The man grabbed her hand. Run! They sprinted through the narrow passage, blaster fire chasing their heels. The girl's lungs burned, her legs weak, but the man never slowed. He guided her through broken doors, over piles of metal scrap, into the ruins of an old factory. Inside, the air was thick with dust and shadows. The guards followed, their boots echoing on the steel floor. The man pressed her against a wall. Stay here. Don't move. Fear froze her tongue, but she nodded. He stepped into the open and the hunters closed in. The girl's heart pounded as she watched from the shadows. She expected him to fall under their numbers, to be crushed like all the others she had seen before. But the human was different. He moved like a storm. Blades flashed in his hands when his blaster ran dry. He struck fast, silent, ruthless. Guards dropped one by one, their cries swallowed by the factory's hollow walls. The girl clutched her chest, torn between fear and awe. He was not weak. He was not fragile. He was dangerous in a way none of the other buyers had been. Yet his danger wasn't for her, it was for her freedom. At last, the factory grew quiet again. The man stood in the center, breathing hard, surrounded by broken weapons and fallen guards. His face was calm, though sweat glistened on his brow. He turned to her. Let's keep moving. The dealer will send more. She stepped forward slowly, her eyes wide. You fought for me, she whispered. He shook his head. I fought because no one should be hunted like an animal. Her lips trembled. She wanted to argue, to tell him he didn't understand. But deep inside, something stirred again. The same small spark she had felt when he first nodded at her in the hall. For the first time, she began to wonder if this human wasn't just saving her life. Maybe he was about to change it. The ruins of the old factory smelled of smoke and rust. The girl sat on a broken crate, her arms wrapped tight around her body. She couldn't forget the sound of the fight, the crack of blaster fire, the screams of the guards, the way the human moved like death itself. She wanted to believe he was her protector, but fear whispered that anyone who killed so easily could just as easily turn on her. The man reloaded his weapon in silence. His hands were steady, his eyes scanning every shadow. It felt as if he had been here before in places like this, facing enemies without end. She gathered her courage. Who are you? She asked. He didn't look at her. No one important, she frowned. That answer only made the question heavier. No one fought like him. No one risked everything for someone they had just met. Before she could press him, a low hum filled the air. The walls trembled as something massive approached outside. The girl's heart dropped. She knew that sound. The dealer's personal skiff. The man stiffened. His hand tightened on his weapon. He's coming. The girl's skin turned cold. The dealer never chased anyone himself. If he was here, it meant rage had driven him out of his throne. And rage made him dangerous. The skiff's engines roared as it hovered above the ruins. Floodlights snapped on, blinding white beams sweeping across the factory. A booming voice followed, cruel and mocking. Human, you think you can steal from me? You think you can break my guarantee? The girl trembled. She wanted to hide, to vanish into the cracks of the floor. The man stood tall, stepping into the open light. She's not yours to sell, he said, his voice steady. The dealer's laugh shook the air. Everything is mine to sell. You paid the price, human, but you dare keep her for yourself. No refund, no mercy. From the skiff, armored guards rappelled down, their weapons glowing. They surrounded the ruins in seconds. The girl's breath caught in her throat. There were too many. The human couldn't fight them all, but he didn't move with fear. He moved with certainty, checking the exits, measuring the fight. She realized then, this was not the first time he had been outnumbered. The dealer stepped down from his skiff, his coat flowing like a shadow. His eyes glowed red in the floodlights, his teeth sharp as blades. He carried no weapon because he didn't need one. His reputation was enough. The girl shrank back, her memories flooding with every cruel moment under his gaze. She had seen him break others with a smile, tear hope apart with a word. The human stood between her and that monster. You can still walk away, the man said to the dealer. Take your wealth, your markets, your lies, but she walks free. The dealer's smile widened, cold and venomous. Do you know who I am, human? Do you know how many worlds fear my name? And you, just a wanderer, just a weakling from a forgotten planet, dare command me? The girl expected the man to falter. But he didn't. He took a slow step forward. I know exactly who you are. And I know men like you always fall. The dealer's smile faltered for the first time. The girl's eyes widened. Who was this human to speak like that? Who was he to face the dealer without shaking? The dealer snarled, snapping his fingers. The guards raised their weapons. Blaster fire lit the night again. The ruins shook with the sound of battle. The human moved like lightning, dragging the girl into cover while returning fire with deadly precision. But this time, it was different. The dealer himself had joined the hunt. And no one survived when the dealer entered the game. The girl clutched the man's arm, her voice trembling. You can't win this. Not against him. The man's eyes burned with quiet fire. I don't need to win against him. I just need to protect you. Her heart twisted. For the first time, she wanted him to live. Not because he was her buyer. Not because he held her fate, but because he was the only one who had ever stood for her. And as the battle raged, the girl began to see the truth. The human was no ordinary man. He carried a past as heavy as chains. And that past might be the only thing strong enough to break the dealer's grip. Blaster fire tore through the ruins, sparks flying as beams struck broken steel. The human crouched behind a shattered wall, shielding the girl with his body. Every shot he fired was clean, controlled, but the enemy never seemed to end. The dealer's guards kept pouring in, armored and ruthless. The girl's hands shook. She wanted to close her eyes, but she couldn't. She watched him fight, watched how he moved like someone who had lived his whole life in battle. He didn't panic. He didn't waste a breath. Each step, each shot was part of a rhythm she couldn't understand. Still, the numbers grew. The guards shouted, their boots thundering on the metal floor. The dealer stood above them all, his glowing eyes locked on the human with cold amusement. You fight well, the dealer called out. Too well for a wanderer. Who are you, human? The man didn't answer. He grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her deeper into the factory. They ran through shadows, past rusted machines, the air thick with smoke. Who are you? The girl whispered, breathless. No one fights like this. No one risks this much. He didn't look at her. Not now. But she saw it. The flicker in his eyes. Pain. Memory. They ducked into a side chamber, hiding behind a fallen beam. The man reloaded quickly, his hand steady despite the chaos. The girl's chest tightened. She wanted answers even if she feared them. You've been here before, haven't you? She said softly. Not here in this place, but in war. You fought battles like this. He stayed silent, but his jaw clenched. The sounds of the guards grew closer. The girl pressed on. You said no one saved you once. Who didn't save you? For a moment she thought he wouldn't speak, but then his voice came, low and rough as if dragged from somewhere deep. I was a soldier, he said, not by choice. They took me young, trained me to fight, to kill, to obey. I was just another weapon. The girl's heart pounded. She had guessed, but hearing it broke something inside her. One day we were sold out, he continued. His eyes stared at nothing, lost in memory. Commanders traded us away like scraps. Half my unit died, the rest, captured, used, forgotten. His voice grew harder. I swore then if I ever walked free, I would never let another soul be sold while I still breathed. The girl's throat tightened. His words sank deep into her bones. He wasn't just saving her. He was fighting ghosts, battles that never ended. Before she could speak, the chamber door burst open. Guards stormed in, blasters ready. The human rose like a storm. His blade flashed, his blaster roared. The fight was close, brutal, the air thick with sparks and cries. The girl pressed herself against the wall, terrified, but not of him anymore. Terrified of losing him. One guard broke through, lunging at her. She froze, the chain around her neck clattering. The human was there in an instant. His knife struck, the guard collapsed, and the man stood over her, his breath heavy. You stay behind me, he said, his voice iron. She nodded quickly, her chest heaving. The last guard fell. Silence followed, broken only by the hum of the dealer's skiff outside. The dealer's voice boomed again, cruel and amused. Now I see. You are no simple man. You are broken like her, a weapon that refuses to rust. That makes this more fun. The girl flinched. But the man didn't move. He wiped the blood from his blade and looked at her, his eyes heavy with truth. You asked who I am, he said. I am no one. But I'll be whatever I must, To keep you free. Her heart pounded. She wanted to speak. To thank him, to tell him he was wrong. He wasn't no one. He was the first person who ever saw her as more than property. And for the first time, she wasn't only afraid of the dealer. She was afraid of what losing this human would mean to her. The ruins trembled under the skiff's engines. The dealer's laughter echoed like thunder, rolling through the shattered factory walls. The girl pressed against the cold metal, her hands gripping her knees. She wanted to hide, to vanish, but the human's steady presence beside her kept her grounded. Human, the dealer's voice boomed. You cannot fight forever. You bleed, you break just like the rest. The girl shivered. She knew the dealer's voice too well. It wasn't only a sound, it was a poison. Every word was sharpened to cut hope from the soul. The man didn't flinch. He crouched low, watching the movement of shadows outside. His weapon rested ready in his hand. Do you think she belongs to you? The dealer called. She belongs to no one. She is broken, unworthy, a toy that even beasts would not keep. Why throw away your life for her? The girl's heart sank. The words stabbed deep because they were the same words she had heard all her life. Broken, useless, worthless. Her breath shook. Maybe the dealer was right. Maybe this human would see the truth soon. Maybe he would let her go, just like all the others. The man turned to her. His eyes were calm, sharp, unyielding. Don't listen, he said softly. He wants you to believe his lies. That's how he wins. Tears burned her eyes. But what if it's not a lie? She whispered. What if I am broken? His jaw tightened. He placed a hand on her shoulder, firm, grounding. I've seen broken, he said. You are not. You survived what would have destroyed others. That is strength. Never forget that, her chest tightened. His words wrapped around her heart like armor. For the first time, someone had told her she wasn't weak. The dealer's laughter grew sharper. Oh, how noble. A human hero. But tell her the truth, human. Tell her how many you killed. Tell her how much blood stains your hands. Tell her you are no savior, only a murderer hiding behind a mask. The girl looked at him, her breath caught. She had seen his skill, his ruthless strikes. Could the dealer be right? Was he only another monster dressed in kindness? The man's gaze did not waver. He looked at her, not away, not hiding. I've done things, he said quietly. Things I will never erase, but I will never lie to you about them. Yes, I've killed. Yes, I've bled, but I will never use my scars to chain you, only to shield you. The dealer's voice snarled from outside. Shield her? You cannot even shield yourself. I will break you both, and when she begs for mercy, I will laugh. Suddenly, the walls shook. Explosives blasted through the far side of the ruins. Dust and fire filled the air as more guards stormed in, their armor glinting under the skiff's floodlights. The man rose instantly, pulling the girl behind him. Stay close, he commanded. The fight exploded. Blasters lit the shadows red. The human moved like a storm again, striking, shooting, never giving ground. But this time the enemy pressed harder. The dealer's rage drove them, their shouts fierce, their blades merciless. The girl crouched in the corner, her hands shaking. She wanted to scream, to run, but something held her in place, his words. You are not broken. You survived. She grabbed a fallen guard's blaster. Her hands trembled, but she lifted it, aiming the way she had seen him do. When another soldier charged at the man's blind side, she fired. The shot struck true, the guard collapsed. The girl's chest heaved, her ears ringing, but a new fire burned inside her. The man glanced back, his eyes meeting hers for a heartbeat. He nodded once, approval, trust. The dealer roared in fury. You dare fight back, little worm. I will crush you myself. From the skiff, the dealer leapt down, his coat flaring, his monstrous strength shaking the ground as he landed. His glowing eyes locked on them both. The girl's blood ran cold. She had seen him destroy stronger fighters with his bare hands, but the human stood firm, his blade ready, his eyes burning like steel. And for the first time, the girl did not feel like prey. She felt like she was standing beside a man who could face even monsters. The dealer's boots cracked against the broken floor as he walked forward. His red eyes glowed like coals, his mouth twisted into a smile that was colder than ice. Around him, his surviving guards pulled back, forming a circle. None dared stand too close when their master moved to strike. The girl's knees trembled. She had seen the dealer crush warriors twice the human size. She had seen him kill with a single blow, laughing as hope drained from their faces. Fear clawed at her chest, whispering she would lose again. Lose this man, the only one who ever stood for her. The human stepped forward. His blade gleamed under the floodlights. His shoulders were steady, his breath calm, but his eyes burned with something fierce. He looked like a man who had nothing left to fear. You can't win, human, the dealer mocked. You fight for a slave, for trash. When you fall, no one will remember your name. The man's voice was quiet, but it cut through the night like steel. Then let it be so. But you will not touch her again. With a roar, the dealer lunged. His fists swung like hammers, smashing stone and metal with every strike. The human dodged, rolled, countered with swift cuts, each movement sharp and precise. Sparks lit the air as steel met flesh, as fury met discipline. The girl crouched in the shadows, her heart pounding. She wanted to close her eyes, but she couldn't. Every movement of the fight pulled her deeper, fear, awe, hope all tangled together. The dealer's strength was monstrous. He slammed the man against a pillar, the sound echoing through the ruins. The human staggered but did not fall. Blood ran down his face, yet his grip on the blade never loosened. Why fight? The dealer snarled, pressing closer. She is nothing. She will never be more than a broken thing, the girl gasped, tears stinging her eyes. The words pierced her, but then, through the dust and pain, the human's voice rose strong. She is not broken, he shouted. She is alive. And as long as she breathes, she is worth more than all your chains. With a roar of his own, he drove his blade upward. It cut deep into the dealer's arm, sparks of blood sprang. The dealer howled, staggering back in rage. The girl's hands shook. She remembered his words. You survived, that is strength. She looked at the blaster still in her grip, the weight of it heavy but real. This time she would not hide. When the dealer charged again, the girl rose from the shadows and fired. The shot struck his leg, forcing him to stumble. The human seized the opening. With a final cry, he drove his blade through the dealer's chest. The monster's roar echoed through the night, then faded into silence. His massive body fell to the ground with a crash that shook the factory floor. The circle of guards broke instantly. Fear spread across their faces. Without their master, they were nothing. One by one, they fled into the night, leaving only the silence of ruin. The girl dropped the blaster, her breath ragged, tears running freely down her face. She stumbled toward the human who leaned on his blade, his chest heaving. You won, she whispered, half in disbelief. He shook his head, blood dripping from his brow. No, we won. She fell to her knees beside him, her hands hovering uncertainly before resting on his arm. For the first time in her life, she felt more than fear, more than survival. She felt choice. You saved me, she whispered. But more than that, you gave me back to myself. The human's tired eyes softened. No one deserves chains, not you, not anyone. They sat in the ruins as the first light of dawn broke across the city, painting the sky gold. For the girl, it felt like the first sunrise she had ever truly seen. The dealer was gone. The chains were gone. And for the first time, she wasn't property. She was free. Beside her sat a human who carried scars deeper than she could imagine. A man who had no reason to fight for her yet did, and in that moment she knew. Freedom was not given. It was fought for, and together they had won it.